A lot of men are not told in their dating years to focus on investing in your intangibles. I know the culture has propped up this kind of target of financial acumen and financial success and house, car, body, performance, physical health. All these different things are great. They're great. I don't think it should be either or. I think we should think both and. But in a sense of priority, it is the intangibles that a man embodies that is going to sustain his career, sustain his profession, sustain his business, sustain his financial management, sustain his relationship management. Okay, making a mess. You like a third grader. So unfortunate. Yo, this spinach, potato, egg, and black bean bowl is fire.
Provision is not money. Provision is infrastructure. If a man has the ability, the mind, the mental sharpness, and the fortitude to come into your life and provide real infrastructure, then he is a provider. There are seasons in a person's life where they 50 might not look like half the bills, but if he shows up in other ways to supplement and make it make sense, you got to understand that. And I'm sorry, ladies, I'm not sending this as a shot to discourage you, sending it as a shot to wake up. If the only thing you know of provision is a paycheck, then you know nothing of it. If that's what you think a man being a provider is, you have no clue what a real provider is supposed to do. That's why so many kept women are lonely.
Welcome back to Perspective. I'm your host, Tyrell. And this week we're talking about really leadership in men in the context of a family and a marriage. So that was a clip from the podcast or the movement, if you will, of tonight's conversation. And what he said there is absolutely true. Provision is not limited to financial means. And where he said was, ladies, I'm not trying to discourage you, but if you think provision is simply a paycheck, you'll be sadly mistaken. I argue also that us as men who think provision is simply a paycheck and is simply shelter and is simply living means, then we are sadly mistaken. Ultimately, the onus is on us men. We have to change the way we lead in a dating relationship versus what the status quo and what the culture has said. Bros, yeah, I get it, but is that really realistic? Hey, choice is yours. Working in the finance industry, got plenty of colleagues and people I work with, guys that don't disclose how much they make and what they do for a living and keep it vague on the first few dates because they don't want someone to all of a sudden have hidden agendas. They don't want someone who is just decided because of what they do rather than getting to know who the person is. And so we do ourselves a disservice to expect women to expect different than what we're leading with, right? When we would think, well, that's what women want. Well, we've kind of already conditioned them to desire and to be attracted to something culturally. So there's going to take a number of men who can impose, right? If you can impose your reality on your surrounding world, you don't have to be confined by those parameters, the rules of engagement. You don't have to. And you'll attract the individuals and the women and the relationships and the friendships that are going to be for you based on your priorities and based on what you produce, not succumbing to cultural norm. So that's really up to you. It could be an uphill battle, sure. But at the end of the day, is it worth it? I think it is.
No, you might be ready to stop the video, but don't stop now. It's just getting good. Listen, I had to pause and share this comment on the video that I shared a moment ago. Now, this comment is by a young lady by the name of Styled by Zerquera. Now, I'm not saying I agree with every single word she said, but I want you to take a look right here. And remember, I said a moment ago, I feel it's absolutely worth it. And I think she agrees. She says, I completely agree. But can we also point out that men typically only lead with their protect and provide and never provision? That's been two things men like to highlight. Men don't usually try to impress women with their intelligence or mannerisms. It's usually what he can do for her financially. The more money said man has, the more he uses to leverage women. Even the most unattractive man knows so long as he spends money, he'll get women. If he didn't offer money, he knows he wouldn't get women. How often do you hear men speak on provision, integrity, loyalty, and faithfulness to get women? So men should change the narrative of what women should expect from them as a collective and not use money to fit your narrative. Now, I'm not even going to cap and act like every single woman out there is on that type of time for a man with integrity, with character. Let's not front. There are some women who are on that type of time that the only thing they're after is money, is a good time, is the high life. However, as a man, you get to choose what type of woman you want to entertain, you want to get to know, you want to spend your time with. Now, I'm interested to know what you think. Do you agree with what she said? Drop something in the comments. Let me know what you think. Do you agree or disagree with what she said and why? Let me know what you think. Back to the program.
When you talk about infrastructure, you have to think about the infrastructure of a man is the man himself and the intangibles he embodies: leadership, accountability, character, being creative, being a initiator, also being able to have intelligence, emotional intelligence, awareness, emotional endurance, right? Fortitude, critical thinking, crisis management, selflessness, servitude, vision, direction. This is the infrastructure. And a lot of men are not told in their dating years to focus on investing in your intangibles. I know the culture has propped up this kind of target of financial acumen and financial success and house, car, body, performance, physical health. All these different things are great. They're great. I don't think it should be either or. I think we should think both and. But in a sense of priority, it is the intangibles that a man embodies that is going to sustain his career, sustain his profession, sustain his business, sustain his financial management, sustain his relationship management, his relationship with God. I mean, all these things are sustained with intangibles. And sometimes we have been tricked to put our confidence in the tangible, where we would get an elevation or promotion, right, tangibly, and we mistake ourselves for being ready for responsibilities we were never ready for, right? If you think of someone winning the lottery, if they win $100 million, you don't think that person goes broke in 10 years, but oftentimes they do. And that's because they haven't had a mindset and a priority shift to change the way they view and manage. And they haven't got new information, new applications. And so they've got an increase in resource instantly, but then they lose it because no matter how much money they have, no matter what type of friends they have, what type of network you have, if you have not invested in transforming who you are on the inside when no one is looking, then that is the person that is going to step to the plate to manage that 100 million, to manage that new relationship, to manage that new found marriage. And it's a sad place for many of us men where we're in our marriages and, we kind of feel like, what more do you want? How many men you ever feel like, what more can she want? What more do they want? What more are they asking for? And that's because your priorities are not in line with the priorities necessary. Meaning you convinced yourself, because you've minimized leadership to financial means, that you have not provided a direction and a vision and a framework of actually living and growing a family, living and growing a relationship, living and growing a marriage. And so you're thinking, what more am I supposed to do? Got the house, got the car, got the career, got the profession, money in the bank, we're good. Not realizing that the emotional growth, the spiritual growth, your patience, have you dealt with trauma? Are you dealing with anger issues, unforgiveness, bitterness? All these different issues are permeating over and really masking the tangible. And so I think as men, we will be better prepared if we were really coached and really encouraged how to invest in the intangible, so that when we step to a dating relationship, when we step to a financial opportunity, when we step to a business relationship, we are not tricked into thinking that we will be successful because we have tangible means, when tangible means are truly sustained by intangible resources. So you have to ask yourself, who am I intangibly? Who am I beyond the job? Where am I putting my confidence in? And where's my mindset? Because at the end of the day, that's going to be the individual who shows up and opportunities and relationships. And until you change that individual and that person, everything else eventually has the same results, fellas, because we got to do better. You may have seen my recent preview I've posted about men leading in a family context, and if we should be praised for providing baseline essential needs in a family setting, things like shelter, right? Provision as far as financial provision, clothes on our back, food on the table, just your basic needs, things that you have to provide for yourself if you're an individual, right? Every single day. If men should be praised for these things in a family structure. I want to read some of these comments and just messages I got. One person says, all I know is if she tells me how well I'm doing, it puts a little extra pep to my steps. Shoot, I might do more than just dishes because you flatter me. Another person says, I'm not sure if it's semantics, but rather than praise, I would say appreciated. It may be basic, but doing it consistently deserves some form of appreciation. Another person said, I look at it as more so general as appreciation for your spouse. It might be considered basic needs, but not everyone is getting that if you open to the big picture of it all. Whether men or women, I think appreciation for all needs is important, whether basic needs or more than that. Another response. Another one response says, everyone in some sense or form at some point wants to hear well done. Those words I do, however, believe shouldn't initiate the leader in us, because now that's saying we need motivation more than discipline. The pep to my step mentioned earlier is a simple and great way of putting it, because it means that my man is still walking. Discipline in my mind is more powerful than motivation and validation. By nature, discipline assumes hardships, like when we don't receive validation.
Now, I gotta read you this quote. Yes, I did just use one of those old school BET movie freeze framed right in the middle of a plot moments, but I had to read this to you. So this one says, I think it does go both ways for men and women, that we cannot expect gold stars in marriage for adulting. We don't take care of our house bills and kids for one another. We do it because it's our basic responsibility. We get celebrated for the special ways we honor our vows day in and day out to each other. Man, I had to go ahead and throw that in there. Now back to the regular scheduled program.
Another comment says, I 1000% agree. Praising for fundamentals means the expectation was low anyway. Our men deserve better. So that was another comment. Another comment says, words of affirmation is a big thing for me. Gratitude for the bare minimum provides a sense of appreciation that can be a catalyst to do more. Whereas if there's none shown, the door is open for a multitude of negative emotional responses. So I think there's a consistency I find here where men are saying, hey, look, at least appreciation would be nice, right? It actually helps me feel even more motivated, more valid to continue to do what I committed to doing in the first place. And then some other comments are saying, well, praise for bare minimum means my bar of expectation is very low. And so I see that there's a common theme that the love language of men, by the way, is honor and respect. When a woman says, hey, I love you, it just means literally we're going to interpret that as, hey, do you love me as an individual, right? And do you respect and honor me? Like, consideration, right? That's what men truly interpret love as. And as women, they interpret love by action, right? If you say you love me, it means that you actually listen to me. You won't keep cutting me off in conversation. You'll have consideration for me. So really, the application of love is really mindfulness and consideration, and then executing and demonstrating that mindfulness. But it's interesting that the baseline needs being provided, and as men say, hey, we want at least appreciation. I would say that one comment that said, if we need motivation to compensate where our discipline lacks, I want to drop my pen there. is because I believe personally that every man in a family structure should be leading their life based on a standard. That standard should be based regardless. Prior to marriage and even when you get married, your family is simply going to benefit from the standard you live by, or they're going to suffer from that standard, right? They're going to draw strength from the standard you have, or you'll be a weight because they're drawing and dragging you around because you don't have a standard that exceeds their own demonstration or your wife's own lifestyle. And so I think every man, if he's going to lead well, he's got to find a way to have the highest level of personal standard in a household. As you lead, so goes the house. That's emotionally, that's spiritually, that is all the different buckets you want to think about. Even if it's not necessarily financially, I think many women will tell you if you don't necessarily are the breadwinner, if you will, financially, but if you are an initiator in direction, in vision. Look who's home. Nicole just walked in, and that means that our daughter walked in with her. She's here. Hey, look, I'm going to have her come over. Come on over. Listen, hey, sometimes when you're trying to record, life happens. Yep. Hey, babe.
You eating that mixture?
Come on. It's just greens and potato, egg and meat. So like I was saying, men, we have to think about leading in more ways than one. Sometimes we are distracted by our tangible means, being able to provide physically, provide financially, and we completely overlook what sustains our relationships and family, which is our sense of direction, our vision, our patience, our ability to serve our family and our community, our sense of identity outside of our physical, tangible things we own and have. That is truly going to help us not feel disappointed, because there will come a day that if you are always putting your confidence in your tangible, you're going to look at your family, you're going to look at your marriage, you're going to look at your business, and you're going to say, what more do you want from me? Not realizing in order to do more, you got to be more. Being more patient, being more present, being more loving, being more creative, being more mindful allows you to do more and grow your capacity. So let's stop falling to the trick that the culture and society has put in front of us like a carrot on a string, and focus on investing in the intangibles ultimately. So, ready for the big reveal? Oh, come on. Baby's here. No? All right. Never mind. All right. Nicole's like, she is not coming on camera yet. Well, Joshua's still asleep, so you can come on camera. At the end of the day, leadership starts where you stand, and what you produce is what you're going to get in return.